Hi, Graham Park here from Shooters Union. Just want to do a bit of an update on something that's been in the news a lot lately, and I know a lot of shooters have been talking about it. And that is the case of this farmer in rural New South Wales that um, used a rifle to defend himself from a potential home invader armed with a knife and a large stick, effectively a club, who came to their house in the early hours of the morning when he had young children after attempting to get into other farmhouses in the area and being run off as well. Obviously, a dangerous and frightening situation. We wish the family well. From all reports, the guy did everything right. There's no legal issues at all, except the next day or a couple of days later, the local police show up. And he has all his guns confiscated and his shooter's license suspended because the rationale being that his license was for pest control or vermin control, and he had used his firearm for a purpose other than that usage. If that seems strange to you, it seems awful strange to me. I mean, it's ridiculous. The guy did everything right. The point of the deputy premier even showed up at his house to sort of commiserate with him and say, we're going to look into grey areas in the law. Well, you're the guys that write the law. Stop making them look grey. Make them clear. I'm going to cover a couple of ways to make them clear very shortly. But I do want to hit something because I've been watching a lot of the stuff on social media and everywhere else, and a lot of the comments from shooters. The reality is that self-defense or protection or home protection is a totally separate issue to firearms within the law, because under every legislation in the world, including the UN Charter of Human Rights, a person has a natural basic human right to protect themselves, their family, from potential harm and injury. Full stop, end of story. There is no question on that. There's nowhere in the world that doesn't exist. It's as much a human right as breathing. And that's a defense under the law everywhere. And really the law just looks at, did you use appropriate levels of response? In other words, if someone slapped you, did you get up and beat them to death with a baseball bat? That would be inappropriate. That's how it goes. So they say, would a reasonable person have used a similar level of force in that situation? It's very subjective, but that seems to be how it goes. And usually, as in this case, if it's very clear, either no charges are ever laid against you for the force, or if they are, when it goes through the whole trial process, which is very expensive, but when it goes through that, most people, in a genuine, clear-cut way, tend to get acquitted, because it's within the law. It is a genuine reason for using force. Now, with that said, that's separate from the Firearms Acts in every state, in which every state in Australia since 1996, personal protection or home protection or whatever you want to call it, self-defense, is not considered a genuine reason to get a firearms license. It is a genuine reason to get one to punch holes in pieces of paper, which we all love to do, or to chase bunny rabbits or deer or whatever, wild pigs, which we also love to do. That's genuine reasons, as they should be. But for some reason, home protection is not a genuine reason. That seems strange to me, and I think would seem strange to a lot of people. But anyway, that's the current legal situation. So no, technically there's no reason someone can't use, if it's appropriate, a firearm, as that gentleman did, to protect themselves. He's not facing any criminal charges or anything like that. However, they're saying in this very narrow band of vermin control for his firearm. I want to address that first. In most of the states, when you get a firearm, it's for a specific purpose. Some states allow you to use it for other purposes in a limited manner, some don't. Obviously, New South Wales has taken the position it doesn't. However, what that does, it means such things as a firearms instructor, I need to get a separate firearm to do firearms instruction with than, say, I would use on my farm or I would use at a club competition. Why? I have no idea. What it results in is people buying more firearms that they didn't necessarily want or need, just to comply with the law. I can think of one case where a person I know has 3 identical Glock pistols. One is for his pistol club competition, one is for his job as a security guard, and one is for his firearm instructor usage. He cannot use the wrong one. What if he goes to the safe and picks out the wrong serial number? Because they're all exactly the same model of firearm. You couldn't tell them apart except for the serial number. Maybe he has a piece of tape on them or something to say A, B, and C. I know it's ridiculous, but that's the way we live. There's a way to fix it very easily. I believe this personal protection issue in New South Wales, which could affect any of us at any time, really, especially those living in regional and rural areas who police response may be a half hour, an hour, or 2 hours away. They may at some point be in that difficult situation. Thankfully, it's unlikely, but they may. Let's look at it. There's 2 ways. One, the regulation that specifies that a firearm can only be used for a specific purpose should be changed to say any legally held firearm can be used for any lawful purpose. And that would fix it, because then you would no longer have the ridiculous situation where a farmer can't take a gun from his farm and shoot it in a club competition, but he has to buy another gun, or vice versa. Or an instructor has to use one gun for instructing, another one of the same model for competition, etc. Any lawfully owned gun can be used for any lawful purpose. And in this case, the gentleman self-protection was a lawful purpose. That's not really in question from everything I understand. So that's the first thing. Second is another simple way. Simply make home protection a genuine reason. We're not talking about people carrying them around or anything else. I'm talking about home protection. Home protection being a genuine reason to own a firearm. If they want to restrict it down to certain categories, so be it. But let's get a start and say home protection is a genuine reason to own a firearm. But anyone could get one. Well, anyone who wants to do all the licensing procedure and go through the background checks and the safety training can get one now. They've just got to put down it's for hunting. So why not have it? Home protection, a genuine reason, have the same background checks, the same safety training, all the same other requirements that you've got. It's just an added reason. So can I suggest that rather than us complaining about, the police overstepped and shouldn't have done this and shouldn't have done that, well, I think they probably shouldn't have. However, with that said, if a law is not clear, someone may misinterpret it. Or they don't think they misinterpret it. They may interpret it very strictly. And you know what? If it's that badly written, don't blame the people interpreting it. Blame the people who wrote it. And politicians and legislators is who wrote it. And we elect them. And therefore, some of that blame comes right back on you and I for allowing this to happen. And sitting back on our fat backsides and not standing up. Now, it's time to go to your local representative and say, hey, we don't want a situation for this farmer. We don't want that situation for any family person in this country who's in a difficult situation like that. Change the regulation to say any lawfully held firearm can be used for any lawful reason, and or do either or both. Bring in home protection as a genuine reason. Call it home protection so it's specific. Home protection becoming a genuine reason with all the same requirements for background checks, safe storage, or whatever you want to have. But that's a reason. There's a start, so this can't happen again. So someone can't have their firearms confiscated and their firearms license suspended, which in this case isn't just a little inconvenience for him. It's actually could be causing animal cruelty. If an animal is injured on his property, he can't put it down, or he can now be having pests destroying his crops or animals, everything else. It's a tool of trade. But aside from that, regardless, it should never happen, no matter what the reason he had the firearms. If he held them legally and he acted legally in protecting his family, why on earth is he being punished? Because the legislation is not clear. Make it clear. Legislators can change it. It's really not controversial to say that any legally owned firearm can be used for any lawful purpose. How is that controversial? If anything, it'd shrink the number of firearms people own. and it's not changing anything they can do. It's simply saying you don't need a separate firearm for that. Secondly, why on earth don't we have home protection as a genuine reason? Surely to goodness, if punching holes in a piece of paper is a genuine reason, or chasing wild pigs around is a genuine reason, and collecting them is a genuine reason, all of which are genuine, great reasons. Why on earth isn't home protection? With all the same licensing, with all the same safety training, with all the same background checks. Hey, we got a election coming up soon in Queensland. Now's the time to talk to some of these politicians. See what they say. Let's make it an issue. Get it in front of them. Bring it to the fore. It's our job to do that. Our being shooters, not Shooters Union. Our job as shooters. Each and every one of us who owns a firearm. It's our job to get out there and make sure that our rights and privileges are protected, and that the legislators know about it. There's no use whinging at the pub. Tell them you won't vote for them if they're not willing to take sensible approach to things. Thanks very much. Have a great one. Keep up the great work.